have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and I'm just asking questions. And the questions that we're going to ask today involve the Central Intelligence Agency, academia, MK Ultra, whether or not what we're going to be discussing in two different arenas is an extension or some type of a successor to that project, and much, much more. Now, earlier in the week, I did a broadcast on Mel Gibson talking about ivermectin and fenbenzidol in relation to cancer. And during that, I talked about the former CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, and we were talking about the arena of censorship, but also the fact that this woman had died rather quickly of cancer. Now, just happenstance, doing a little bit of research and dicka-dicka-do, I found out that Susan and many other high-powered individuals were part of something called the marshmallow experiment that I had never heard of out of Stanford University, right? And many people are aware of the Milgram experiment and that type of mind control via a power structure of prisoner and, of course, officer, etc., authority figure, etc. This was completely and totally unbeknownst to me, and we're going to get to an interview from 2019 where Susan's mother, who also raised the CEO of 23andMe and a doctor, etc., talks about her success as a parent. But in there is this program based in children and delayed gratification. Then I read a headline today. This TikToker, she's doing her TikToking, comes out and says during the 90s, she suspects that she was enrolled in a secret CIA program that was disguised as a program for gifted students. We're going to play a video from her, but we're going to read that article. In that article, unbeknownst to Bermas, okay, I see, I'm a little slow on things. Apparently, we've got new declassified MK Ultra documents out there. We're going to show you that. So this is actually going to be a very important jam-packed episode on a subject that I'm not seeing anybody else cover whatsoever. Whether it is this marshmallow experiment as a historical precedent, this new revelation that this other program may have been involved with intelligence. And they actually reference the Gateway program, which we talked about again in another video last week when we were dealing with consciousness. I mean, jam-packed episode. Do want to encourage you to thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. Hit that notification and check me out on alternative platforms. Remember, I can't do it without you, so consider donating via the Buy Me a Coffee. Big shout out to the small and large donors alike. Could not do it without you. There's other links down below. But let's get into it. So Q&A. Okay, Esther Wojcicki raised the CEO of YouTube, the CEO of 23andMe, and a doctor. Here are 5 rules for successful parenting. And let's just do this. Let's see, let's type in marshmallow. I think it is right there. Right there. When she was 4, your daughter Susan, now CEO of the YouTube, was one of the participants in the famous marshmallow study at Stanford University that examined self-control in children. And she apparently was among the children with the most self-control. What advice do you have for parents for teaching self-control, both as a means of combating the obesity epidemic and being able to delay gratification to help with other things in life? And we're going to read some of this marshmallow experiment. 40 years of Stanford research found that people with the one quality, again, delayed gratification, are more likely to succeed. Now, I just want to pump the brakes on that for a moment. When we do talk about mind control, and we do talk about the intel community, it goes hand in hand, not just with academia, but also big business and big pharma. That's something, again, that has been repressed throughout history. But when we talk about academia, one of the depatterning projects that we have been aware of for a very, very long time happened at McGill University. Okay? So let's just read some of this right here. In the 1960s, a Stanford professor named Walter Mischel began conducting a series of important psychological studies. During his experiments, Mischel and his team tested hundreds of children, most of them around the ages of 4 and 5 years old, and revealed what is now believed to be the most important characteristics for success in health, work, and life. Now, look, I'm going to contend that this program is also a training exercise when these children are their most vulnerable. And just like any type of hypnosis or suggestion or control of the mind, and I would encourage people to go check out Darren Brown and his work for stuff that's kind of in the public arena, you're going to get varying degrees of those that are susceptible to this and actually gravitate towards this. And once again, it seems Wojcicki was top of the line. The experiment began by bringing each child into a private room, sitting them down in a chair, and placing a marshmallow on the table in front of them. At this point, the researcher offered a deal to the child. The researcher told the child that he was going to leave the room, and then if the child did not eat the marshmallow while he was away, then they would be rewarded with a second marshmallow. However, if the child decided to eat the first one before the researcher came back, they would not get a second marshmallow. So the choice was simple: 1 treat right now or 2 treats later. The researcher leaves the room for 15 minutes. As you can imagine, the footage of the children waiting alone in the room was rather entertaining. Some kids jumped up and ate the first marshmallow as soon as the researcher closed the door. Others wiggled and bounced and scooted in their chairs as they tried to restrain themselves, but eventually gave in to temptation a few minutes later. And finally, a few of the children did manage to wait the entire time. Published in 1972, the popular study became known as the marshmallow experiment. But it wasn't the treat that made it famous. The interesting part came years later. And it talks about SAT scores, lower levels of substance abuse, social skills, etc., self-control, discipline. Something that, when dealing with children, You constantly have to reinforce. And unfortunately, if you don't get them young enough, I don't know if it ever comes. The younger, 4 and 5, that's big. The younger you get them, and it is a positive trait for sure. I wonder what else went on there. Just going to say that. So let's continue on. This is the headline that I see today. I was in a gifted class, or I was in gifted classes as a kid in the 90s. Here's why I think it was a secret CIA program. Now we're going to read this because she believes it's the GATE program, the Gifted and Talented Education Program, okay? That's what they named it, but they're drawing a parallel to the Gateway program, all right? And it provided students with advanced curriculum and activities to foster creativity and critical thinking skills. But many former students believe they were actually part of a secret CIA initiative to test the supernatural abilities of children with above average intelligence. And really, look, I'm highly skeptical of a lot of the work with ESP, supernatural abilities, etc. But what is supernatural? Because I also do believe that consciousness is not what we are led to believe. I think we are able to do very, very great things as individuals, etc. And I think a lot of that has been repressed and suppressed, and the nature of not only consciousness, but our reality in general. I know it's a mouthful. One woman who claimed to be part of the program in the 1990s shared a workbook she purportedly used during class, showing she was cracking codes and learning Russian. The stuff I found in there, I'm like, what were you training us for, she said. Some former GATE students argued that the program was tied to the CIA's Gateway program that was developed in the 1980s to explore the limitations of human consciousness using sound, meditation, and other techniques. And we've talked about that, okay? A document released by the CIA explains these recordings typically featured a series of nonverbal audio patterns masked by sounds like crashing waves or wind blowing through the trees. Many alumni of the GATE programs recalled being subjected to the same audio tests at school. And that's the Russian stuff. Here it is right here. We're going to play that video right there showing some of the worksheets in a moment. Let's keep going here. Some of them were basic IQ tests, but many of them were of the meditation type testing, where we had to listen to a woman's voice on an audio tape with big earphones, said one former GATE student who goes by Rachel on TikTok. They were facilitated by people who did not work at our school, she added in a recent video. Okay? So with that being said, let's play this video, and then we're also going to talk about the fact see, it's awful. I gotta remember. I hate TikTok. I don't have an account, guys. So I thought we were a gravy train with biscuit wheels. Apparently we're not. Now we're gonna try to be. Here we go.
I'm back with more of the worksheets. So I went through the comments and I tried to pick out worksheets that were what you guys remembered, so I can confirm it for you. First things first, some people wanted to see the astronaut on the front. So this is him. It was about an underwater diving apparatus. One thing I saw somebody say was the voyage of the Mimi. So here's one on episode 8. We had a worksheet for every single episode, and I have all of them, but they're pretty much similar. And then a lot of people remember learning about whales, and yes, we in fact did. And here is one of the worksheets on that. Then there were a lot of comments about puzzle pictures. Tell me if this is what you guys were thinking. So like they cut up the picture, and then we had to put it back together correctly. Like that. And then we had to do I have so many of these graph sheets, and they tested us against each other, and they would like write down how fast you finished.
And by the way, look at that,
like
that one right there. Let's bring it back. Hard to pause.
And then we had to do
that's a spaceship.
I have so many of these graph sheets, and they tested us against each other, and they would like write down how
space
fast
shuttle
you finished.
coordinates.
There's also more like Russian, ASL, problem solving, crossword puzzles. I found my invention rubric and more decoding. I'll post some of those later, but right now I am very hungry.
So you can go follow this individual, Anna Mills XO23, if you want to see more of that stuff. This is that document right here, parts of it from the gateway process, right? Which, they're kind of coinciding. But here I had no idea. This is brand new. This is from January 6th. Disturbing new details show how CIA drugged and tortured Americans in secret mind control program MK Ultra. No kidding. Newly declassified bombshell records of an infamous CIA mind control program, MK Ultra, reveal how Americans were drugged and tortured more than 60 years ago. The collection of more than 1,200 pages, and I'm going to try to get these documents, guys, and see what I can drum up from them. We'll probably do another broadcast where we're looking at the raw documentation. Details on the CIA used induced sleep, electroshocks, and psychic driving on drugged subjects who were psychologically tortured for weeks or months to reprogram their minds. The subjects included criminals, mental patients, and drug addicts, but also Army soldiers and average citizens who were given drugs without their knowledge. Total of 144 projects were conducted from 1953 to 1964. And prior to that, remember, we had Bluebird, we had Artichoke that we know of, and then probably many others that we still don't know about, as so many of these things are still classified and overly classified to this day. Okay? Let's see. They were aimed at developing procedures and drugs that could be used during interrogations, weakening individuals, and forcing confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. They also wanted to create a assassin that would do what they wanted when they wanted and then not remember any of it. Total plausible deniability. The newly declassified pages detail how the CIA used methods such as induced sleep, electroshocks, and psychic driving. Did we already read that one? Sorry about that. Or did they repeat that again? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a jackass. So we got to check this out. A memo about a classified meeting showed that the CIA contemplated the possibility of testing on foreign nationals, but decided that unwitting testing on America's citizens must be continued instead. And this is Whitey Bulger. A lot of people know him from being a gangstar. Guess what? He was in the MK Ultra program. Weird. It's right here. Gangster Whitey Bulger, a former organized crime boss, was used as a test subject in 1957 while an inmate at the Atlanta Penitentiary. He explained he was one of the 8 convicts in a panic and paranoid state while in MK Ultra. Total loss of appetite, hallucinating. The room would change shape. Hours of paranoia and feeling violent, Bulger penned. And he was a violent type of guy. We experienced horrible periods of living nightmares and even blood coming out of the walls. Guys turning into skeletons in front of me. I saw a camera change into a head of a dog. I felt like I was going insane. And look, if you've ever actually done hardcore hallucinogenics, you know how that's possible. The National Security Archive, NSA, agency, that's what it should say, said in a statement the CIA conducted terrifying experiments using drugs, hypnosis, isolation, sensory deprivation, and other extreme techniques on human subjects, often U.S. citizens, who frequently had no idea what was being done to them and that they were part of a CIA test. Huh. How about that? Wait a minute, I thought they weren't supposed to operate inside the United States. Bunch of Johnny nonsense, if you actually believe that. Once again, folks, can't do it without you. Want to give a big shout out to Jimmy. Hey, Bermas. Just showing some appreciation, man. I do try and be positive, but I'm from Boston, so I like to talk shit a bit and have a more negative point of view. But you are on top of my list of people who share great info and expose evil in the world. So here's a little change. Hope it helps. I'm praying circumstances align for you so that you will get the money and recognition you deserve. Really appreciate that, Jimmy. We're going to keep trekking with videos and with supporters like you. We should be able to thrive in a situation where it is incredibly difficult, unfortunately, to proliferate via social media, via the platforms available, and monetize them if you are outside of that left-right spectrum, if you are outside of the talking points of the day. Tell me who else is talking about this. And by the way, if you want to give me a follow over on X, at least we're allowed to grow there. It's not monetized, etc. Check this out. Apparently, I haven't seen anything since the 90s. The stealth bomber, I think, was the last declassification, and they've just declassified another. It looks a lot like the stealth bomber, obviously a little bit more curved, maybe a little bit more UFO or UAP shaped. But you can get stories like that and other ones that we may not cover in videos just by following me on X. So you guys know the drill. It is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong. I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you on the flip side.